Hello beautiful people. In this video I'm going to share 5 simple steps to improve your colored pencil drawing. If you enjoy watching this video, please use the links in the description below this video to shop for art supplies on Amazon. One of the most common mistakes every beginner makes, they shade something very inconsistently. It would look something like this, leaving a lot of gaps in between and not getting to the edge of the shape. So to fix that, you need to outline it and then shade right next to that outline using enough pencil pressure to fill it in completely. If you're afraid, you could do small circles. You could layer the colors in layers, but that's how you need to think and approach shading. You want to fill in the area right to the edge. You don't want to have the gaps in between because it confuses the eye. It applies to everything that you draw. And if you need to have a softer edge, you simply overlap the color slightly. I am placing a reflected light on every grape. So this is the reflected light. This is the form shadow, the highlight, and all the values that I'm going to have in between. And this is the highlight, but this area needs to be darker. So it's still kind of bright, but it must not be as bright as the highlight. If you'd like to take your colored pencil drawing to the next level, please check out all my video classes available at veronicasart.com. Thank you very much. Look at your drawing paper. You've got to choose something that works for you I talk to colored pencil artists a lot, and we all have our preferences. My preference is to work on a fairly smooth drawing paper, which is Bristol vellum drawing paper. I really love the one by Koh-i-Noor because the pages are very thick and it doesn't crumble easily, it stays flat. I also like Canson color line papers, but these are toned paper. You probably want to start with the white one, but do check the color paper as well. Bristol Smooth is just too smooth for my liking, but you might like it more. I think it limits the layering, shading is very limited, and I don't recommend working on textured surfaces or pastel paper. I've done it many times and I always regretted doing it because it takes a lot longer to fill in all the grooves and it just becomes very frustrating. You have to use Gamsol or a different kind of solvent to blend the surface. You've got to pick an interesting object or, have a very easy object to draw, but have a unique point of view looking at that object. If you draw a cup, it could be super interesting if you rotate it in such a way that it makes it fun to look at. Here you see me draw skulls. This is the only skull that I've done in my entire lifetime. So the subject itself is very different. It's not to the taste of most people, but that's what it is. You need to be creative with your ideas, objects you draw, or a point of view. Another thing I want to show you how I lighten up a certain area, and this is one of my secrets, so to speak. You can change the color and value of your shading considerably by doing this trick. So what I'm doing, I'm shading the area in one color using this colored pencil, violet. Okay, and then I take a very light gray and start shading over this lilac using a very heavy pencil pressure. It is important to use a very soft, light colored pencil and apply it with a very heavy pencil pressure. And as you can see, this color looks sophisticated, but it seems to be in the same color family as the color of the marker over here. And I might change it in the future, but it looks okay for now. And you see these blue outlines. These are outlines that I did first with the marker. Again, I might reapply those outlines or shade over them. I haven't decided on this yet. Originally, I bought them to try out to shade like big areas. That's why I bought a double tip marker, because you can buy a single tip marker which is cheaper. This one is more expensive. I might try shading big areas in the future. This is what you can do with the markers to create the colored underpainting very quickly. I'd like to explain a few things about the edges. When we keep shading It is totally normal to lose the edge, and some of the edges do need to be lost. However, there are moments when we need to reestablish the edge, and to do so, you must have a very sharp colored pencil and just go over and reestablish the edge. Depending on your idea and whatever you want to have, you can leave it like so, and it's gonna look very outline. But if you press on your colored pencil and shade right next to that outline, you get more volume instantly and you define this edge. Because whenever we look at something, we want to have certain things in focus, and when you define the edge, you give that area a lot of focus. Our eye goes right into it, and if you don't define the edge, it's gonna stay nice and soft, like the cast shadow over here, for example. This is very, very important because most students just keep shading and everything looks like a mush. There is no clarity or definition to the shapes. So you lose the edge when something is in the distance. For instance, I'm gonna lose the edge over here. I'm gonna keep it nice and soft, but I know what elements need to be in focus to describe my idea, and that's the reason why I'm going to outline those shapes. And I usually do it several times as I continue layering. It's not a one-time thing because I apply colored pencil in layers, increasing my pencil pressure as I keep shading. Because if you're afraid to screw up, it's better to layer the colored pencil in progression, in layers, as opposed to shading a specific area, in a very deep and dark color that you might not like, and then you get upset about it. So the easiest thing is just to shade in layers. See here the edge is not defined, but when I get to it, I can press on my colored pencil and define the edge. Okay, here I'd like to explain a few things about the transparency of colored pencil, because you can use it to your advantage. All colors are semi-transparent in essence, and it depends how much pencil pressure you use to do your shading. And it also depends how many layers you place as well. But what you can actually see is that here it looks a lot darker, and it looks a lot darker for a reason, because I applied the marker first and then I shaded with violet on top of that. And you see how different it looks. It happens because I keep shading using a single colored pencil only, but because I some marker applied over here, it looks much darker. Regardless of the pencil pressure, I'm using the same pencil pressure. See, this part doesn't look as dark as over here. And also another reason for using a different color underneath your, let's say, a local color like violet, is that you get a lot of color. You know, the surface becomes very interesting, colorful, and exciting to look at, as opposed to layering a single color, because it looks kind of dull. I know that I'll shade with more color over it, but if I leave it like so, it looks pretty dull. And that's, you know, I'm using yellow colored paper. So if I shade with violet on white paper, it would look even more boring, in my opinion. So to make it more colorful, you do need to use either a colored surface or have some color going underneath your local color to make it fun and, you know, intriguing, interesting to look at. And sometimes I use the markers to cover a large area, and then I use colored pencil, you know, shading over that area. I'd like to show you how you can blend the colored pencils and add a softer white in the area instead of using your regular colored pencils. All markers are different and you do need to test them. I don't recommend this because they dry out super quickly. You know, I'm drawing with them because I have them. I'm using them to blend a specific area and also to lighten it up. As you can see, it's not a very bright white, and I can shade with colored pencils over this. I can cover large areas in this white just to block in lighter values. I can also go back with my pure white colored pencil to shade over this area as well. But I kind of make this idea like I split the face between the light and the dark. So I focus on shading the lights on one side of the face, and then I'll be shading the darks on another side of the face. You can see that this part of the drawing is more complete than the previous one, and I've already applied the white, but I can go back and do it again if I want to make it lighter. And then I can shade in colored pencil over it as well. You know, it takes some getting used to, but this could be really useful. See, I define my lights even more. I make them stronger. Every time I go back and, you know, use my marker. Okay, step number 4, you've got to organize your color harmony. And this means that you pick a few colored pencils. Basically, you need to decide on your dominant 1 or 3 colors and let the rest of them be supportive of your dominant colors. Otherwise, you have a cacophony of color. Also, color is about layering and overlapping the same colors over and over again to get this richness of beautiful hues. I always organize my color around a specific theme, and I teach my approach to color in my Color Crush course for colored pencil artists. I go deep into the detail using the Mansell color system, the color wheel, and how I think of color and how I organize it. So if you are interested, you can go to my website veronicasar.com and click on video courses and pick the class. I also have a brief overview of the color system in the coloring book, How to Color Like an Artist, and in the colored pencil manual. I keep a free downloads page at the footer of my website, so you can just go to my website. You don't need to subscribe, and just scroll down to the very end of the page and click on free download page and download the outlines for all the projects that are in the colored pencil manual book. I did it for you to take your art to the next level. Step number 5. Now let's talk about texture creation. When you're done with general layering and overlapping of the colors, the final step is to think of your texture, and the realism comes from understanding how to depict a specific texture on an object or next to an object. For instance, some parts of your drawing might have zero texture. They need to look like glass, and this means that you need to burnish the surface and use a heavy pencil pressure to make the surface as smooth as possible. And other times when you have the texture, you need to come up with a specific stroke to describe that texture. It's also about outlining certain edges and areas to bring them to focus more, and softening other edges to make them recede in space more. So when I look at every specific area, I'm just thinking how I can, what kind of texture I can create in that area. Or if it's smooth, I make sure that it is as smooth as possible. I also like creating special effects or texture using other materials, not just colored pencil. And I used some watercolor paint, gold and different other shiny colors, using minimal water and applying it over my drawing. The drawing was done on wood, so it was easy to do. If it's texture of the hair or the facial hair, you want to apply a general shading first, separating between the light and the dark. And when you go over that shading with the texture, you come up with the stroke. Is it an up and down stroke, or is it going sideways, or are these short strokes or long strokes, or a combination of all of them? And if you want to create additional sparkle or magical feeling, You can try using markers. Always test new art supplies on a separate piece of paper, and if you like the effect, then you can use it in your art. Finally, you can use paper indentation to create very unique textures, and then when you shade with colored pencils over those indentations, they show up and they create a very unique texture. A lot of times art is experimentation. You know, sometimes I do unusual textures just to see if it's going to work or not. So here I decided to have this short stroke uneven texture to represent the center of the flower. I'm not even sure if it's gonna work or not. It's just a play of strokes and color. Also, I don't have the reference for this flower. It's a made up flower, so I don't really rely on any particular reference and just go by my intuition and experience drawing it out. I'm using the side of the colored pencil to make broad strokes, to make broad shading. And as you can see, I overlap the color a lot. Usually when students shade, they shade one area and then stop, almost creating like a line, but you need to go over and overlap, and that's how you make very colorful surfaces. Also, when I shade in one color, I take this color and add it in other parts of my drawing. That's how I unify my composition in color. You know, I throw the same color throughout the picture. See, you can find it here as well. And I would put it as a tiny reflection or just as a line. You know, I could even add it somewhere in here. And that's how I create color unity. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you like this video, please share it with your friends, subscribe to this channel, and if you want to receive a free download, you can comment in the comments below this video, and I'll send you a direct link. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye. If you find this video helpful, share it with your friends and subscribe to this channel.